The BIPOC Coach Collective proudly presents Elevate and Celebrate. This is a podcast to showcase our members, dive deeper into their journeys, and express who they are into the world. Our mission is to curate a brave and authentic space for coaches to connect and to elevate our voices globally in the coaching profession. Learn more about us at bipoccc.org. Your story matters, your voice matters. Let's start the show. Happy New Year! Welcome to the 2024, and we're going to kick off the year right with this episode of Elevate and Celebrate. I'm joined with Michellea Redbird, Millis Rucker, who is in the process of becoming a doctor. So pretty soon I'll be able to say Dr. Rucker. But for now, Michellea has been someone who's been in the leadership space, working with K through 12 leaders for close to 30 years, working with other executives of color. And she is somebody who is what I love to call a stand for women, a stand for the marginalized, the underrepresented. And what she does is navigate these worlds so gracefully. You're going to hear that word in this episode. But what she is a powerful member of our collective. She's someone who is always showing up positive. She's always showing up with substance. And you're going to be able to experience that in this episode. So as you hear this, right, if you're a person who is looking to break into the corporate space, maybe hesitant, maybe not really sure of, do you fit? Am I the right person? Is this the right space for me? You're going to hear her journey of what she experienced at the beginning of her career of bad mentorship, bad leadership, quote unquote, and then finding a way to navigate that into developing strong relationships, strong connections, and really making a powerful impact on the world. So all that said and done, we are excited for this month of programming within the collective. So make sure you stay tapped into the website bipoccc.org, where you're going to learn about our open house call at the end of this month and for members only. And next week, we're going to have our facilitation call. We're going to have an amazing speaker, drop some super value bombs. I don't want to talk about it right now because you can find that all on the website. I want to get right into this episode. So tap in, enjoy, and let's start this show right. All right. We are joined by the Redbird. Wow. No, I'm kidding. Millis Rucker, thank you for stopping by Elevate and Celebrate. We're excited to have you with us this month.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm excited to be here. As you know, I'm a huge fan and have a huge crush on BIPOC Coach Collective and how they are able to bring folks who look like us in this field of work. So yeah,
Yes.
I need to be here.
Yes, fantastic. So I would love to really dive in and kind of get the backstory, the origin story of who you are, and most importantly, the clients that you love working with. So I think that might be two separate questions. So let's just start with, who are you?
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, I am a mother, a teacher, an edu-preneur, a developer, a thought partner, all of those things wrapped up in one. And it stems from my work coming from over 30 years working in nonprofit spaces, working in K through 12 spaces, specifically more so in leadership, and then recently working with C-suite leaders. So that's sort of who I am. I'm originally from the East Coast. Half the rep, I'm a Jersey girl, Orange, New Jersey in the house. And actually, I'm very pleased to say that was actually my first educational experience, returning back to the district I graduated from and working with those young people. I am a proud BIPOC woman, a feminist woman. I will put that interjection in there. I represent two cultures, Native American and African American, both respectively.
Wonderful, beautiful. Thank you for that intro, and so much to unpack from there. One thing that really stood out to me, I want to like kind of dive into, and maybe this touches back into your previous corporate experience. You said you're an edu-preneur. And then I caught that. I was like, oh, she didn't say entre, like that's the edu. So
yeah,
help me distinct that. Like that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, so Actually, I didn't coin it. So folks who are hearing this, I wish I did because I'd be very wealthy right now, but it's actually a term that's been out for some time. But I don't know that it's widely used. It is a distinction from entrepreneur in that an entrepreneur is sort of a head of a business and an edupreneur is more educating about the work they do. So as a transformational leadership coach, professional developer, leadership developer, thought partner, and facilitator, I do a lot of leaning in, pouring in, as opposed to sometimes in entrepreneurial spaces, we are pulling out and taking. So that's the huge difference.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And with your background, right? What inspired you to go into to at least start building a business or look into the entrepreneur space, right? Because you had this extensive history in that you said K through 12 leadership and in working in that space. So why, right? This is a question I think maybe a listener might be like, why do this? Why go into this arena, so to speak?
Great question, Alex. And if I really want to be truthful, it started out with my parents. They were entrepreneurs.
Mm,
They had a business, and as a young person, I got to see them. Then when I got older, teenage years, I actually helped out here and there with the business. And some things resonated with me, like, okay, this is your own. Um, I saw them grow from a small business to a fairly medium-sized business. Um, the daily struggles of a business, but more importantly, taking what you believe based on your values and growing that through a proposition model, right? When I went into education, I think my intention was to retire as an educator.
mm,
But post-COVID, I did a lot of work during COVID on my own educational biases and led me to believe what was the gaps that I didn't have. And a major gap was I did not have any folks who directly were thinking about how do I grow Michellea to be an exceptional leader. I had to seek that out on my own because I wanted to be an exceptional leader. But I think it's a travesty that in school context, and I would now even extend to corporate context, it's not an intentional, deliberate conversation or strategy for leadership development. And I would like to say in my studies, which I'm doing right now for my dissertation around leadership coaching as a retention strategy, there's not a lot of proof points or evidence that leads to using coaching as the vehicle for professional growth and development. And so my business came out of all of that I want to be able to at least provide those services for those who want it. Because you and I could probably have a separate podcast on those who want coaching and those who are told you need to go to coaching or not, or else we're going to fire you. It's a different dynamic for coaching, right? I see you smiling, so you get it. And so in my work, I'm leaning into the coaching space that's here, that's necessary for you because you came here willingly. The growth when I do group coaching and also team coaching that can take individuals beyond what they think is accessible or their potential, tapping into that, and then also taking that to make sure that the organizational has the growth that it wants to through its vision and goals.
yeah, wow. I'm really interested about this, right? Because I think this would be helpful for a lot of our community and other people who are listening, right? Who are in the executive coaching space, who do work with corporate clients, and that key word you use, retention. How have you seen coaching really be a powerful tool for retaining key employees, uh, really enhancing their experience and their productivity?
So one of the things when we normalize, and I want to say that loudly with caps if people can vision that word, coaching within the corporate space, or not even the corporate, it could be small business, schools, nonprofits. I think everybody should get a coach. I often joke around and remind people when Oprah would say, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get a coach, you get a coach, you get a coach. Because I believe it's that important. Because when we open up our spaces for coaching, we now are saying we're a learning organization. And that means it's a continual journey to growing. You come in, Alex, working for Michellea Redbird and Millis Rucker at point A. That's why I hired you. You have some skill sets, etc. But my goal is that you're going to get to point Z because I'm going to nurture you, cultivate that, and sustain some leadership competencies that is going to take you into other positions or even beyond my company. Because I don't think it's anything wrong with thinking that, yes, I want to retain Alice for as long as I can, but Alice has given me 5 great years and now he needs to expand beyond that because maybe the company can no longer contain him. He has to grow beyond, etc. And he may find ways to reach back to that company through mentorship, coaching, or something else. But I think when we think of coaching as a linchpin, not as a one and done or add on, but it's a part of how we are as a company and how we focus on leadership development. There are lots of implications of where coaching, especially leadership coaching, can be used as a strategy for retention, for professional growth and development, for well-being, joy, purpose in the workplace.
Yeah, wonderful. Well said. I love that. And I'm curious, being a woman of color, right? How has that reception been from leaders, right? Or, with your mindset of like, hey, we want to grow this person, develop this person, they may potentially leave. I could imagine there'd be some pushback of, hey, no, don't give this person everything, right? Don't help them get so good that they're gonna leave. And now that puts us in a tough spot. And maybe even some questions of like, well, who are you, right? Like their mind, like, who are you to tell us or try to lead us to do something different or operate from a different stance? Like, what's that experience been like for you so far?
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you're saying that because I have no authority, I have no power in these companies, these corporations, just influence. And I speak from a place of being a leader myself and also understanding the dynamics of those that lead others. If you are in the mindset of a servant leader, then your goal is to grow people. It's not to stifle their growth. The person who is deciding whether or not they're going to stay with a company or organization, you can't influence that. What you can do is build them up as much as you can. And then I think you need to find pathways because at some point, Alice may decide this was great. I've done this for 5 years, but I need something different that challenges me because I think most people, especially budding leaders, want challenge continually to hone their craft. And so if you can create that pathway, the journey to sustaining them is much stronger than there's nowhere else for Alice to go. So now he must go beyond. And any leader that's forward thinking understands that because there's many folks out here who said, I started with said CEO, said executive director, said principal, and they constantly reach back to what they gave them so that they can continue to flourish and grow. It's not about keeping people because I need them to stay in this job, but it's about growing leaders so that we can continue to have organizations, schools, companies that promote leadership and take that baton back down for the new young leaders that are coming.
Yeah, what I hear from you is this great example of somewhat paying it forward, right? Of helping this person is saying, and you're right, with the right kind of ambitious leader, they're always looking to challenge themselves. They're always looking to see what's that next level for themselves to grow into. And I would say, having support from a supervisor, from a CEO, from whoever their quote unquote rank is above them, they'll come back and be like, man, you know what, I need some more help. You've been so instrumental in my growth. You've been so supportive of me. You didn't blackball me. You didn't you didn't trash me or throw me away, right? You really nurtured
Yeah.
me. And I think that fosters that collaborative those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. So we have allies, we have sponsors, we have mentors, advisors, all of those folks who provide a plethora of opportunities for us that are not always contained within the organization, because a really great leader sees beyond where you are today, and they are facilitating who you're going to be future. And that all doesn't always mean within that space, because often there's other locus of control that they can't. I would love to keep Alex, but he really needs to go to the next level and our company's not ready. I would love to keep Sally, but we can't match her salary, and I value that she needs that next salary step in order to continue her growth. And those are some of the things that I think great leaders do when they decide that they are, pushing novice leaders or mid-level leaders to go to the next step, is that I'm going to help you, but I might be limited where I'm at right now. So I'm going to need you to go further and out, but I'm always here to come back to sit in this space for you.
Yeah. It becomes that relationship shift of, colleague to peer, right? Of really kind of being on equal foot in there. And I'm just really curious about what has shaped like your values of leadership, because I don't think this is kind of unconventional for most people, right? Like we've been talking about, where a leader's going to want to, maybe most leaders might want to like contain and control and hold on and hold back in a lot of spaces. But what I hear from you is, you said it a couple of times, right? Servant leadership, right? Having these principles of collaborating, having having the vision to uplift people. So I'm curious, like, did that come from watching your parents in their entrepreneurial journey, your education background? Like, how did this all form for you?
Yeah, so actually it came from bad mentors. So let me share a little story for you. Originally, me being a young leader, literally I was a leader in my 20s. That's fairly young. And all my mentors told me, rule with an iron fist, make sure you're the one in control, very power dynamics philosophy. And I think when I stepped into education, I saw, for me, that was really counterintuitive to my spirit. My spirit was all about, how do I help this person? How do I support them? How do I cultivate and motivate them? How do I nurture and inspire them to be the best every day, to bring that optimal best to work? And so I had to really do some work on retraining my brain to be a servant, which means if I'm in a position of what do you need, then people are more apt to say, I really, really need X. And being authentic about it, because often in those spaces, we have not created cultures that really honor the request. And so fear comes. The reason why I was that type of leader early on, because those people were fearful of giving up control. But I learned that control can be shared. And it doesn't have to be the thing that hangs over your head. Just because I have the title of principal on my desk, I'm leaning in because I have a certain expertise, but my team has other expertise that together we are a powerhouse. If I just hold all that myself, then I am missing out on a wealth of knowledge and expertise that each person that's part of my team brings. I think there's a lot of humility that I had to do to really say, yeah, I have this role, this title, and with it comes some influence, but I'm not looking to wield that as a sword. I'm looking to use it as an entry point for conversation to say, I come with this. What do you bring? What do you bring? So that now we have a big think tank of ideas and innovation for really serving these young people or in your corporate spaces.
Yeah, I love that. You're not using your title as a sword, but rather as a bridge.
Exactly.
People. Yeah, that's
That,
wonderful.
that's really something that I had to learn the hard way. I tell people all the time, because I'm very transparent about my failures, that I failed forward.
Mm.
I remember when that term first came out and people were saying fail forward, isn't that an oxymoron for leadership? And I said no, because as great leaders, any great leaders that you study, which I have a master's in leadership, and now working on my doctorate in leadership, so I study a lot of leaders, and they all have failures. Some of the greatest leaders walking on this planet or have walked on this planet have a lot of failures to say that, yeah, I messed up. And from that, I came out of the fire, like a phoenix rising, so that I can just approach the next step of leadership with ownership, with all this knowledge that had I not failed and recognized that failure and grown from it, I wouldn't be at this place.
Yeah. A mentor of mine once shared with me, there was a conversation about one of the people growing their business and just having these different challenges were coming up, and what he said was, I've failed more than you've ever tried. And it was kind of like a sting. It's like, ooh, like gut punch. That kind of hurt, but looking back, like, yeah, they're right. They've been able to take no's, right? And whatever we want to make that mean, right? The no, the oh my God, life is over. I failed as entrepreneurs. Like, some people are scared of 3, 4 no's. This person is willing to absorb 400, 500, 600, doesn't matter. The results speak for themselves, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, but it's a good story. And I think one of the things for me, I'm often asked when I'm interviewed or on a panel or podcast, what is the advice I would give a future edupreneur? And I would say create your own path and journey. There's a lot of noise out there of watch this podcast. I'm not against podcasts. I love them. Or, pay for this certification or join this club or this group. I'm not against any of those, as I belong to groups. This is one of my favorite ones for various reasons. I listen to podcasts. I pay for certifications.
Yeah.
But I think you have to create the path that's right for you as a edupreneur, because the other folks who've done it, that's worked for them. It doesn't mean that aligns with your values, with what is comfortable for you, or any of those things. And I think that the greatest advice I can give is carve your own path. You can hear the noise, but discern against the noise to decide that's good for me, that feels comfortable for me, not be forced to do things. Because I hear a lot of folks in this space now, meaning business owners, that say, I wish I had never done that. I spent a lot of money doing that, and that really wasn't who I was, nor did it align with my values for what type of company I want to be.
Yeah, I love that idea, the power of discernment, right? Of filtering out the noise and take what's useful throughout the rest and keep moving. And I love that you gave us a little quick plug there, a little shout out for the collective. So I'm curious, how did you find your way into the BIPOC Coach Collective?
That's a great question, because I actually was a non-paid member before I became a paid one. And I think I was doing pro bono work for some BIPOC nonprofit leaders through another organization. And they mentioned, have you heard of the BIPOC Coach Collective? And I said, no, because if I had, I would have joined it, because here I am in a space, if folks don't know, there's a data point out there that says they do not know how many people of color are in coaching. That comes from the International Coaching Federation, which is one of the most recognized organizations for coaching, and they don't even know. So if they don't know, then that means that it's a small number, right? And
Yeah.
because of the small number, BIPOC Coach Collective for me allows me to literally just sit in a space with folks who look like me, who understand me, who are out there like me, struggling and hustling in this field, amongst other groups of people who may find it easier, because of privilege, or because we're stepping into spaces that before that we haven't. So for me, finding BIPOC Coach Collective was super important, because it's like I say to everyone, that is the one group of people that makes me feel like I'm home. Like we say when I was growing up, it makes me feel like I'm at church. And because there's so much learning that I can get, collaboration and support all in one place that I know I'm not getting in other places.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I love that. And you're such a valued member. You contribute so much to us, and even just having this conversation with us this month, like it was really valuable. And one of the things that you touched on earlier, right? I'm kind of coming back to this word about being a feminist, right? And being in this space with your strong stance with who you are, right? Person of color, and I didn't even know really about the Native American indigenous background either. So that's kind of like almost a double whammy, right? Two strikes against you of really breaking through in these spaces. So I'm curious for women of color out there who are listening. What would your message be for them if someone who's really aspiring to break into this corporate space, but maybe having that disempowering thought of, well, I'm not going to be accepted. I have to change who I am. I have to kind of like code switch to get into these rooms. What would your message be to someone who's kind of on their way up or even currently in it and experiencing some of that feeling?
So my message would be find a coach of color. So plugging BIPOC Coach Collective again, reach out to us. I know Alex, you, Reen, anybody part of the leadership team or any of the coaches that are part of the membership will be honored to coach you. That's the first thing. And then the second thing I would say is that although you might find as you're doing your research as a young person in corporate, that there's not so many of someone that looks like you, there's someone that looks like you that may have been there. Find them, talk to them, learn from them, grow from them. Because one of the things that I do also in my nonprofit work is participatory community research with marginalized communities. And one of the things that the young people who are about to take the leadership baton say is that I can't find anybody who looks like me who's done this work. And I know that's often difficult because we've been the first in many places, but right now there's a lot of role models that are out there, maybe not easy to tap into, but someone should be able to get to them, or if it's not then someone like them to be able to guide you and help you through that process, because you need that support when you go into spaces where it's one or none of us in there to be able to be successful. And at the end of the day, your desire to go into corporate is because that's a field, that's a company you believe in. And so you want to make sure that you are linked and connected with folks who have been there, done that, to help you navigate through those spaces.
Well said. For anyone who's looking to connect with you or just kind of give us a projection of like, what you're excited about in 2024 and moving forward, like what can we expect from you or what can we anticipate? Let's put it like that.
Yeah, so recently I've been doing a lot of work outside of my coaching C-suite leaders with K through 12 leaders, specifically about getting comfortable about having conversations about race. It's important because when you are in places where 90% or 80% of your student base are students of color and you're not of color, you are now teaching my children what you know, which comes from a place of privilege. Let's just be honest. That's not saying that that's wrong. That's how you were socially raised, so we get that. But you have to think about from their perspective, they're about to take that baton, that leadership baton. And so how do you make sure that they are proud of who they are and how's that infused in the learning? And a part of that is having those real candid conversations about race. So I'm doing some research on that right now, as well as some projects to really get to doing that work, because there's a statistic out there that says only 18% of K-12 leaders have had anti-racist training. Yeah, I see your face like that's mind-blowing, right? I
Yeah,
would have thought it was
18.
higher too. 18%.
Yeah.
That's fairly low. But a part of it is, if we really think deeply about it, if that was a norm where that was part of the leadership prep program, who would that be fighting against, right? Fighting against systemic racism, fighting against those who don't want to change. They want to keep status quo and so on and so forth. And that could be another conversation. But point being, if I can get some school leaders to begin doing that, I'm hoping that it becomes a trend, a domino effect. Everybody wants to do it because they know the impact to the school, but more importantly, to those students of color who have not been in equitable schools forever.
Yeah. And that's an interesting dynamic, right? With the two types of groups you've done a lot of work with, right? I'm wondering, what do you see as like similarities and differences between like, let's say a principal, right, in a school and someone, a managing director, COO, CEO? Like, are you seeing any overlap or like completely separate worlds? Because it's both leadership, it's both spaces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question, Alex. So definitely see a lot of overlap in that. There's research to support that everybody's afraid to talk about race. Unless when I say what they say is you're okay to talk about it as friends. So you and I could talk about it probably till the sun comes up the next day, next week. But then when we get in spaces where judgment, shame, conflict, fear comes up, CEOs as well as K through 12 leaders, which are CEOs of schools, they get afraid because they don't have the tools to handle what's going to come. I mean, talking about race is uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with that uncomfortability. You have to be prepared for, the emotionality that's going to come out of that. You have to be so careful about the positionality you put forward. A girlfriend of mine who's in this space, also DEI work, asked me a couple of months ago, when I work with schools, do I come softly and knock on the door? Or do I kick the door in? And I said, in the past, I would kick the door in, probably stand on it, stomping, and I realized that as loudly as I believe that this work should be entered into, folks are not ready for that. It doesn't matter whether you've been marginalized or not. Change is difficult, and you can't come in wielding a big stick like we must change today. That's not effective. It also doesn't give folks who have come from different experiences and perspectives an opportunity to digest and marinate in what it takes to really approach this in a way where everybody's seen, heard, and felt authentically. And so I now say, I come gently knocking, and I plan on staying for a while. So I'm the family member that you probably say, when are they going home? Until at least some things become permanent within your practice, so that when I do go, you can still keep that work going without me.
Yeah. And I love that ability of yours, right, to have this strong stance, right, and especially for something so important, right, as far as race and identity and leadership, to be comfortable enough not only just talking about it but actually doing what they're there to do, lead people of different backgrounds and connect with them and do that in a way that is strong but not intimidating, right? Like you say, come with the big stick, we're gonna change everything, throw stuff across the desk, be, quote unquote angry Black woman, whatever, but rather invite yourself in, an approach of, hey, I'm welcoming you, welcome me into this space, and let's have a real conversation.
Yeah, and I think recently I just came back from Coaching for Equity conference, and they talked about a graceful approach. And so one of the facilitators said, for grace, for her, she thinks of Michelle Obama, right? Love Michelle. When they go low, we go high. But then I also think about my sisters like Shirley Chisholm, who was like, I'm making room at the table. You didn't have a seat for me, then I'm gonna bring my own chair. I think one of the things I'm saying here is grace can be at both spectrums.
Yeah.
Grace is, I'm not gonna let all this mess that you're trying to put in my head get on me. This is not personal. This is your stuff. I'm here to help you own it and get through it. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I'm also not going to feel intimidated that you didn't make a space for me because you don't want to talk about these things. I'm just going to come on in, gather you up and say, okay, it's time. And so there's room for both types of graces. And I think that's important for people to realize. Yes, I'm very assertive in what I believe is right as a child advocate, but I can also play both sides. I can be Michelle and a Shirley at the same time, and knowing when is necessary in the occasion so that I can make sure that this work is done with bold intention.
Yeah, more beautiful. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to start closing this out and thinking about you, right? Graceful, right? Just how you approach things, how you build your business, how you have served numerous leaders, students, educators, executives in your career. So if there's any message, anything you want to like, any final thought you want to leave us with, anything that is present for you in this moment that you want to express.
Yeah, I'd like for people who are hearing this to, when you sit and hear this, I hope you're moved to get involved. This is a call for action. If not today with everything that's going on, please join a BIPOC coach collective, mentor someone, coach someone. And when I say that, because yes, coaching is a profession, but I also do pro bono. I know, Alice, you do too. Offer that, because there's young people who are craving for that knowledge. And they need you to step up and be that bridge, as you used earlier, to helping them navigate from the maturity of their young career and leadership, and actually getting a chance to sit in it and feel it so they can begin to develop their leadership identity. So I would say that.
Awesome. What's the best way we can find you, Michellea? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is pretty unusual. It's actually mostly mispronounced unless you know me. So I'm not difficult to find. So just start typing Michellea and I'll pop up. You can also email me at Dr. Rucker at transformingourpractice.com, which Transforming Our Practice is the name of my business. And you can also find me on Twitter under Miss Transformate. So you can find me any of those ways. And then I have no problem with phone calls and texts. I know that most people are like, I don't do, but I do. You can reach me at 512-364-1015. But I'd love to hear from folks, especially if you're other coaches of color, if you're doing leadership work, and especially young people of color who want to attach themselves to us, that are willing to nurture their leadership journey.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us and providing so much insight and just into your journey and into the work that you do and that you're going to continue to do. So appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex.
All right. See you all next month for the latest and greatest episode of Elevate and Celebrate. Take care. Stay blessed. Thanks for watching this episode. If you got value from this, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. And feel free to connect with us at bipocc.org. See you next time.